The 2025 NFL free agency has delivered a flurry of signings and trades that are shaking up the landscape across the league. Fans have been eagerly awaiting the outcomes, and ESPN's review of the latest free agent moves gives us a window into the thought process behind some of the most significant team decisions. Let's start with Seattle's signing of Sam Darnold. After a season in Minnesota where Darnold experienced something of a resurgence, he's now heading to the Seahawks. The departure of Geno Smith, who was traded to the Raiders, paved the way for Seattle to make this move. Darnold, who is younger than Smith by 8 years, is being brought in to help guide a Seattle team that's undergoing a major transition. With players like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett also moving on, the Seahawks are clearly looking to start fresh. One of the key factors in Seattle's decision to sign Darnold is his familiarity with the offensive system that the team runs. Clint Kubiak, Seattle's offensive coordinator, worked with Darnold previously, and the fit between player and coach should be a smooth one. But as Mina Kimes points out, the offensive line is a major concern. In Minnesota, Darnold had a strong supporting cast, including an excellent offensive line and playmakers like Justin Jefferson. In Seattle, the protection may not be as reliable, which could cause problems for a quarterback like Darnold, who has struggled under pressure in the past. If the Seahawks don't address their offensive line issues, it's hard to see Darnold replicating his success in Minnesota. For now, this feels like a high-risk, high-reward move for Seattle. They've got their new quarterback, but now they need to build around him. Meanwhile, Justin Fields is leaving Pittsburgh for the New York Jets, signing a 2-year deal worth $40 million. Fields, who was benched by the Steelers last season, seems to be getting a fresh start in New York. Reuniting with his former Ohio State teammate Garrett Wilson is a major storyline here, and the chemistry between the two will be something to watch. The Jets are a team in transition, having moved on from Aaron Rodgers, and this signing represents a low-risk move for the team. Fields has a lot to prove, but the Jets' offensive line is solid, and if they can get that unit to play cohesively, Fields could thrive in this new environment. What stands out about the Jets' decision to sign Fields is how they're prioritizing fit and familiarity. Wilson is one of the top young receivers in the league, and pairing him with a quarterback he already knows well from college should allow for an easier transition. Furthermore, Tanner Engram, the Jets' new offensive coordinator, was previously the passing game coordinator for the Lions, where the focus was on building a strong offensive line and a balanced attack. For Fields, this is an opportunity to reboot his career in a more supportive environment. If everything clicks, the Jets could be playoff contenders, but like Seattle with Darnold, there's work to be done in the trenches to make sure Fields has the protection he needs to succeed. One of the more interesting moves of the free agency period is Cleveland's acquisition of Kenny Pickett. The Browns traded for Pickett, sending backup quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson and a 2025 fifth-round pick to the Eagles. Pickett was once a highly touted prospect, having been drafted in the first round by the Steelers in 2022, but he's bounced around the league since then. Cleveland's move to acquire him raises questions about what their quarterback room will look like heading into the season. Deshaun Watson is still the starter, but there are rumors that the Browns might add another veteran quarterback or even draft one with their number 2 overall pick. What's fascinating about Cleveland's situation is that they seem to be hedging their bets at the quarterback position. Pickett's arrival doesn't necessarily mean the Browns are out of the quarterback market. They're still being linked to free agents like Joe Flacco and Kirk Cousins, and it's possible that they could draft a quarterback early in the draft. It's a unique approach, but it makes sense for a team that has struggled to find stability at the quarterback position for years. If Pickett pans out, they've got a potential starter on their hands. If not, he's at least a capable backup, and they'll still have other options to explore. Cleveland's acquisition of Pickett also speaks to a broader strategy we're seeing in this year's free agency. Teams are looking to stockpile talent at quarterback and let the competition sort itself out. The quarterback position is the most important in football, and having multiple options is never a bad thing. The Browns have taken a relatively low-risk gamble here by giving up a late-round pick and a backup quarterback, and if Pickett lives up to his potential, they could come away looking like geniuses. One of the most puzzling moves of free agency so far is the Houston Texans' decision to trade Laramie Tunsil to the Washington Commanders. Tunsil, a 5-time Pro Bowler, has been the anchor of the Texans' offensive line, and trading him away seems like a step backward for a team that struggled mightily in pass protection last season. As Mina Kimes points out, Tunsil was the best player on an otherwise terrible offensive line, and trading him away leaves a huge hole that will need to be filled. Houston's rationale for the trade seems to be that they're trying to get ahead of the curve. Tunsil is 30 years old and has 2 years left on his contract, and the Texans may have been reluctant to give him another extension. By trading him now, they were able to get a package of draft picks in return, including the 25th overall pick in this year's draft. The Texans are clearly looking to rebuild, and they're hoping that they can use those draft picks to find younger, cheaper talent on the offensive line. But as Kimes points out, this is a gamble. Drafting offensive linemen is always a risky proposition, and there's no guarantee that the Texans will be able to find someone as good as Tunsil to replace him. From Washington's perspective, the trade is a slam dunk. They've been aggressive in free agency, adding veterans like Marshawn Lattimore and Deebo Samuel, and now they've solidified their offensive line with one of the best left tackles in the game. With Jaden Daniels emerging as one of the most dynamic young quarterbacks in the league, Washington is clearly in win-now mode, and adding Tunsil gives them a much better chance of competing in the NFC. This is a team that's trying to build around their young star quarterback, and Tunsil's presence on the offensive line will go a long way toward helping them achieve that goal. Overall, this year's free agency period has been defined by bold moves and big risks. Teams like Seattle, New York, Cleveland, and Washington are all trying to position themselves for success by addressing the most important position on the field, quarterback. Whether these moves pay off remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: 2025 is shaping up to be an exciting year for the NFL.